I'm Charlie Williams. I'm the CEO and founder of Advent Tech. I've been in ed tech about 18 years. Lindsay and I actually talked. I can't remember if it was a year and a half or so ago, but we connected at a show, and she said, "Hey, I'm Lindsay. I work with Hapara." I said, "Oh, I know what Hapara is. I love Hapara." And she's like, "Well, how do you even know what Hapara is? Because we traditionally not really worked with the channel." And I said, "Well, I've looked at, Go Guardian, Lightspeed, Linewise, everybody. And I had a Hapara demo years and years ago, and I thought it was just the easiest to use solution ever." And she said, "Well, that's great news because we'd like to start working with channel partners, right?" So that was how we kind of got connected. And I said, "Man, I just know it's such an easy to use solution. I think it'd be very interesting for our customers." And, again, my first demo on it would have been years ago, and obviously the solution's updated since then. So Lindsay and I have talked. We've already introduced Apara to a number of our customers. Lindsay, why don't you introduce yourself, and then Heather, introduce yourself, and then we'll kick off the content.
Yeah, I'm Lindsay Dixon Garcia. I've been working with Hapara for about 8 years, 7, 8 years, something like that. In a former life, my first career was as a high school classroom teacher. So I taught high school Spanish for 12 years, and then moved into marketing in K-12. So
Nice. Heather, how about you?
I officially joined the Hopper team in 2021, and before that, I have been in education for over 20 years and in a multitude of roles in K-12. And I don't want to date myself, but my career started in the 90s. So I've been in lots of different positions over the years. And I run I want to say parts of our professional learning, but we have a team that does that as well. But I lead our professional learning in Hopera as well as many other roles as well, assisting where I can. And I just loved everything about Hapara. So I'm here to join in the fun.
Thanks for doing the introductions. And again, it looks like more people have joined now as we expected. So Lindsay and Heather, why don't you two take it away and tell us about Hapara? Why should we look at Hapara for the first time or look at it again?
all right, awesome. Well, a little bit about us in case you haven't ever heard of us. Hopper was founded in New Zealand in 2011 by a group of educators. They had just adopted Google tools and they needed something to organize all of that digital chaos that it was creating. And since then, we've grown into 40 countries, serving 4 million learners and 200,000 educators. And we have a really exciting mission, and that's why I'm here at Hapara, is to give educators and learners thoughtful technology that helps make learning engaging, safe, fun, and makes everything that we do in the classroom more impactful, more transparent, more visible. A little bit about how we kind of look at digital learning today. Like I said, we've been around since 2011. Our first product was actually, and it's still a product, was our teacher dashboard, which the primary function of that is it gives teachers visibility into students' Google Drives. So the student doesn't have to be in their Google Drive. It's not like a monitoring, that part's not like a monitoring function. They can just go in there and check and see, like, hey, has Heather worked on her essay at all today? And you can see that no, she hasn't. And you can just drop into her doc, leave her some comments, formative feedback, and you can do that for all your students. That was kind of where Hopper started. And then it also grew into a monitoring tool called Highlights, that allows teachers to, of course, monitor what students are doing on their screens, but also kind of guide their learning in the digital environment. We had schools adopting that, before COVID. Of course, there was lots of adoption during COVID times. And then, most schools, I think, are one to one, or they're moving towards that, and trying to get devices in all the hands of their students. So we're at a really kind of pivotal moment, I think, in education in K-12, and our kids are really distracted. In general, I have two teens at home, and I can say this is true for them. But kids are distracted in the classroom, either on their cell phone or on their devices. I mean, even some of the devices have pop-ups that are popping up all the time, things like that that teachers don't anticipate. Kids are not super engaged in their learning. They're playing games on their Chromebooks. They're finding ways around all of the filters and monitoring tools that are out there. That's one of the most that was really interesting to me this year to find was one of the most popular Google searches of all time is games to play on your school Chromebook.
I've got teenagers in school right now too, and the stories that are coming out. And I mean, there are still, I've got a son in high school. I don't want to throw him under the bus or anything, but he says there are still certain teachers, they use a different solution, one of those kind of you have to start stop your classroom solutions to monitor. And there are teachers that just never really hit the start button, on their classroom. And therefore, there are certain teachers where the kids are abusing the Chromebooks, almost every class. And so it is an issue. If for some reason you don't think it's an issue at your school, it may be because a lot of your teachers are not using the whatever tools you have now. Because it is in high school, especially. Oh my gosh, they think of those devices as their personal devices. And you could talk to them until you're blue in the face and say, "This is not yours. Now you're not allowed to abuse this. You're not allowed to sign up for Spotify. You're not allowed to do this or get around our YouTube filters." Yeah, they will try everything they can to do it.
One thing we've noticed too is with most schools moving towards cell phone bans during the day at school, not allowing them
Yes.
out at all. Kids are using their Chromebooks and devices more and more to communicate with each other. They will find a chatting in Google Docs. This was actually my daughter. Just I will throw her under the bus. They use Canva at school. It's one of the approved apps, and you can
Yeah.
leave each other comments in there, and that's how they chat. They use it as a chat.
Gosh, that's a new one. Yeah.
So like they will find a way. And teachers, this is stressful for teachers. It's really something like most of us were not ever trained to deal with. If you're of a certain age, I didn't learn anything about how to deal with digital teaching and learning. Heather, I don't know if you did in your teacher preparation. And so it's stressful and they're tired of so many apps and things like that. And they're being asked to incorporate more and more. Our kids are, unengaged, like I said. Principals have all of the problems that arise when technology is misused in classrooms. They're actually the number one group of people we hear from the most at Hapara because they're the ones that end up with the discipline referrals when somebody does something naughty on a Chromebook. And then, our technology leaders have this challenge to give students equitable access to technology, but you're in a really chaotic environment. And so we try to take that into account when we design our tools and think about what a real classroom looks like. And this is actually something Heather and I kind of came up with together a while back. I said, Heather, you were in the classroom more recently than me. Tell me what a typical classroom looks like. You got like one new student that does not speak English. You have a student, you could have 20 kids on IEPs in your classroom that you have to provide separate accommodations for. You can have the kids that are going to finish super fast because they're high flyers. And then they're going to get into some, naughty business because they're bored. um, there are kids that you have to modify for. There are kids that are gonna take a little extra time. And the kids that are really good at closing tabs or switching tabs when the teacher walks around. So it's pretty chaotic. So kind of the way we look at it at Hapara, what we talk about a lot is all of our kiddos are developing their executive functioning skill set. So they're learning how to be responsible, prioritize what's important, plan to get things done, all those different really important skills. Everybody has the capacity to develop those. Not everybody develops them at the same time at all. Some of us are still working on them as adults, and that's okay. But in Hopera, we've purposely built in these different features that can help kids sort of develop those skills while they're in the digital learning environment so that it's more of a proactive approach to classroom management software. and monitoring students. Of course, you can close a kid's tab, and there are moments when you need to just close the kid's tab because it's unsafe or it's distracting the entire class. Um, but there are also times that you can be proactive and help kids develop those executive function skills, help them become better digital citizens. And we do that kind of through these features. We have a grouping feature that allows teachers to kind of when they're assessing their class and what the needs are of their different students. You can put your students into different groups so that they have different curated browsing experiences. So let's say your SPED 504 group, they need a multiplication chart. And then, you can also providing feedback is really an important part of teaching and making sure that you're not just, shutting down the bad behavior, but also kind of redirecting it and helping kids learn from it. So we have lots of different ways for teachers to communicate with their students. So there's two-way messaging, there's, class announcements. You can also email a student directly. So lots of different ways to kind of give that formative feedback to students that are really struggling. And then, like I said, you can kind of curate using the groups. Um, Different browsing sessions for different student needs. So you can put them into a filtered browsing session where you kind of block out all the typical distracting websites. We usually recommend that at the beginning of the year when kids are kind of just learning the procedures and expectations for using the devices. And then the hope is that you move into more guided browsing where you're, just kind of putting them into specific websites and allowing them a little more freedom.
It's interesting, by the way, you mentioned that. So, one of my kids, they have a dual enrollment in the local college for some college courses, but it was really interesting because they had used a different tool and they'd kind of locked down everyone's Chromebook so severely they couldn't actually get to those pages. And it was one of those solutions where they have both an internet filter plus a classroom device manager in place. And again, I know those solutions are popular. I mean, they're out there. We know them. You know, I don't want to say other people's names, but there's Lightspeed, LineWise, and GoGuardian who kind of sell really as a filtering solution first. But yeah, I think what was really frustrating for the teacher and even for me as a parent is we're trying to get our students enrolled into Shasta College, and the teacher didn't really have the ability to turn on or off certain websites for the students. And this was just like literally a local community college website. There's nothing on it that you can do to get in trouble other than register for more classes than you're supposed to. And then again, it was just one of those things where even though they had a tie-in filter and teacher device manager, the control was really still up there and the teacher didn't have the ability to guide kids to the proper websites.
Yes, you definitely don't wanna have a scenario where it's, like, very lockdown learning, where the kids can't go anywhere, because we do have to let them get to the things they need to, and we can't think of everything that we need to filter out ahead of time. That would be impossible for a tech director to do, or tech administrator, but, at the same time too, like, sites that are not dangerous, like, we need to let kids kinda make mistakes sometimes and learn from them, and that's what these tools are for, so you can say, "Hey, Charlie, that, cat website about house cats is not the best, um, use of your time. What do you think would be a better use of your time?" Because we also have a feature where you can close a tab, and it gives a reason to the student, so they know why the tab is being closed. Um, but basically what we wanna do is kind of filter out all that chaos, and set teachers and students up for success. Some of the features that we have that are help you take a more proactive approach to digital learning. We have the Google Drive access, where you can access the student's Google Drive, like I talked at the beginning about. Um, Being able to jump in right in the moment when a kid needs your feedback and get them back on track through different communication tools that we have. Also the focused and filtered guide browsing ability where you can kind of you can just let the kids get on and say like, hey, go to these websites. That's fine too, but I don't know if you've ever tried to get like 30 first graders to the same URL. That's pretty hard to get them to all type that in correctly. So if you can just open it up on their browser for them, that's a lot better use of the teacher's time, in my opinion. Even at my high schoolers, like when I taught, we were going to computer labs for classes, and I would have to say, okay, let's all go to whatever URL. And it would take 30 minutes to get everybody on the same website. And then, kind of being able to also personalize um, browsing and learning for students. And then we also have the ability to you can do this all in the moment, or you can schedule our sessions ahead of time if it's something you want to repeat every day. Like a teacher wants kids to be focused on their bell ringer every day for 5 minutes. You can schedule that and you don't have to keep reinventing the wheel. So we do offer a few different things, um, just some of the more technical aspects. So it works in Google and Microsoft environments. It's also pretty much plug and play. So it's about a 30-minute implementation call. Wouldn't you say, Heather?
Maybe even less, depending on your setup. It's very easy.
Yeah. You can do rostering through OneRoster, Clever, ClassLink, PowerSchool, Google Classroom Sync, lots of different options. And then it integrates with lots of other tools. Like it plays very nicely with the tech stack that K-12 organizations, because we were built for K-12. And then we have a really great support team. We actually get like so many compliments about them because they are so incredibly helpful. Even if it's just a teacher asking, "How do I log on?" They're just really kind people and they really wanna they're all a lot of them are former educators as well, and so they just really wanna help teachers be successful.
And I want to just comment this, again, as a reseller who we can sell and we have sold lots of other, device management solutions. What do I love about Hapara? I would say, you mentioned it, but rostering from your Google Classroom and then the Google Drive integration, the Google Docs integration. I mean, that is, you cannot overstate the beauty of that. So that when you're just a teacher, you've got Google Classroom, you already have your students in Google Classroom for sure.
Yeah.
So from your Hapara interface, you just quickly roster the students into this class you're teaching right now. You can go through and, like you're showing here, you can look in their Google Drive from the Hapara dashboard, right? You don't have to go somewhere else or get administrative credentials. And then being able to see the kids' screens in real time. So it's all of those things happen within seconds within the Hapara interface. And that was actually one of the questions we had. I think you mentioned it really, really early on, but somebody actually asked, "Can you see what the students are all working on in real time on their devices?" So yes, that's definitely everybody can kind of do that. Definitely, Hapar can do that, and you don't necessarily have to do the start stop classroom
Right.
feature that a lot of other providers have you do. Now, when they do that, there's other things they can sometimes monitor there, right? But this is not trying to necessarily. You said this to me, Lindsay, once. You said we're not trying to stop and control students from what they're doing. This is an instructional tool, right? So, yes, you may, redirect your students quite a bit, especially early in the school year. But, this is not primarily first a control filtering tool. This is really kind of an educational tool, first and foremost.
Yeah, we just really wanna make the digital learning process smoother and easier for everybody, just less chaotic. And Heather's actually used it in the classroom, a few years ago when she was still in the classroom.
It was a game changer, and I called it our online community, and I tried to make as a positive approach as I could with the students. They didn't always love it, but I phrased it in the way, like this is ours. However, you need to remember that you are using the school's domain when you log in. And I have this visibility to help support you. And so I would always say, like, we, this is ours, ours, ours to help build that relationship in the digital classroom. And Lindsay's right. I had zero training on that whatsoever. I had to learn with them in the digital community. But a lot of teachers that don't do that, that are just closing tabs and, building that power struggle with students, I would say are not building that relationship with students that you need to in that digital community.
I think, Lindsay, you've captured this when you trained my team as well. You said like a lot of other teacher device management tools are really kind of a gotcha tool. You know, hey, we caught you doing this thing, and now I'm going to block it, and now I'm. And again, you have a lot of these great tools available. It's not like you can't block or guide to specific websites, but it's really meant to be part of this online community. Somebody asked, guided browsing, can you do that individually and on a classroom basis? Okay. Yeah, I figured that was a yes. You see if a student takes a screenshot on their screen.
You could see it if it's saved in their Google Drive.
All right, keep going, Lindsay, because then we'll get to more Q&A here.
Okay. And so the Google Drive button integration is something that's unique to Hapara. Another thing that's pretty unique for security is it's going to show it in a second. So this is the file sharing, and this is part. Let me back up. Part of the Google Drive. Cool part about that integration is normally if you create like a Google Doc for your students, it's super clunky to do. But with the share files button in Hapara, you can create it and it will like provision it with the student's name appended to it for each student. So it'll make 30 copies. And you only have to do it once. So it saves the teachers a ton of time. Heather, feel free to jump in if you have more specific info.
While Lindsay's looking for that, I called this our digital photocopier, and then I always see teachers sit up a little bit straighter because they're ready to listen. Because when your printer goes down and your photocopier goes down, this is your best friend.
Yeah.
They send that copy to the student's drive, and then they can work on it. It's just
Yeah.
perfect.
You can also see if the kids have any documents shared with anybody externally, which is a security issue. I don't think any other tools do that. You can see if anyone externally outside the school has shared something with a student. So, maybe it's a parent and that's totally harmless, but you don't want, some unknown person sharing documents with your students.
That's a good point. The only way we managed to get my teenager registered for their Shasta College class was he had to create a Google Doc and send me the links from his work Chromebook. And then I had this thought. I was like, well, that's fascinating. He can't even email me. I can't email him, right? That's locked down. But he can share a Google Doc with me as an outsider.
Yeah.
And it's the only way we could get around the filter to get him registered for college, right? But I could have been anybody else, you know.
Yeah. 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 A lot of
That's a great
to
tour.
set up that way. And then this is kind of what, the bread and butter of the monitoring tool. Let me go back to the start. This keeps playing too faster than I can talk. So these are the current screens that students are currently on. You can also toggle here and see all the tabs they have open. So you can kind of choose which view you want. Um, and then this is our close with a reason. So you can just, kind of lightning close it. There's a little lightning button where it closes it super fast. Like say somebody is on something super appropriate, you just need to get it closed. But also if you want to make it that teachable moment, you can also provide a reason. There are some templated reasons like, hey, this is not the best use of your time. Are you lost on the internet, my child? Something like that. And you can choose how long you want to block that student from that tab. And so it just kind of creates that teachable moment. So maybe like, because when it's super anonymous, and the kids don't know why it's being closed, they're gonna keep going back to it. But if they're, a little bit if they know that their teacher knows and their teacher's looking at them across the room and sending them this message like, "You're on the wrong website, dude," they're less likely to go back to it, and that's what it shows in the user data that we have. Um, so this is also our guide browsing. Pretty easy interface to use. Heather, do you wanna say anything about kind of the power of guide browsing?
Oh, I'd love to. There is so much about it. So, the fact that you can focus students onto a certain site or up to 10 sites, or the fact that you can, have that gradual release of responsibility and block up to 50 sites on top of what your filter and what your firewall already are not allowing your students to go to is so powerful. But the fact that you can create a template and schedule it in advance or have it ready to go. So if you wanted to have, I saw someone write something about a bell ringer. So if you wanted to have a ringer ready to go, if someone were knocking at your door, or if you needed to have emergency sub plans for the first 10 minutes for your sub to get organized for the day, you can have this all set up in guide browsing, ready to go at your fingertips just at any time. It's the fact that you can just save time and have everything ready to go and have your students in a safe and supported area that you can't monitor at the time is just so powerful.
Yeah, it also keeps we don't want teachers to be chained to their desks. They need to be able to get up and walk around the room, not sit behind their desk looking at a screen. So having kids in that focused browsing session helps them feel a little more confident that the kids are doing what they're supposed to be doing when they're working in small groups over here or with an individual student, and they can't be looking at everybody's screen. So and then one more thing I just wanted to mention that we also have a digital hall pass coming out in Q1. I don't know if I've even shared that with you, Charlie. It's relatively new. If you want to learn more about it, you can go to hopera.com/hall pass to get more information about that.
There's a few more questions, and if you the person who asked about the student screenshot thing, they said that was a feature at some other tool they saw presented. Like, what if a kid copies some of the kid's homework they could see? So that was kind of the reason for that question. How do you find out if someone is actually sharing with someone else externally, like sharing a Google Doc? Is that a report or a notification that gets sent to the teacher?
So, if you go to our Google Drive button, which is available in Teacher Dashboard and Highlights, we have a fantastic drop down menu. So, right now I'm looking at all of their documents that are in their Google Drive. So, I'm sorry, I'm looking at two different screens. So, I'm going to look away. So, we can go to public documents. So, this is anything that has been shared out publicly from our school domain. So, I'm going to grab I I always use Zoe. She's our student that, I don't wanna say that she's up to no good, but she typically is our repeat offender, so I'll just bring Zoe to the forefront. So, Zoe has made some public documents, so she's shared out her volcano science lab notes, so right away, I'm on high alert because it's spelled very wrong. See that Zoe has shared it with 17 plus people. And then I have a little preview of it, and so I wanna know who she shared it with, so I can actually just click right into it, and that is my right, and I always share it with the students too to let them know. And so I can see that they're just having a conversation, and like Lindsay said, and Charlie, like you alluded to, they can't email each other, but now they can email outside of our domain, and I can look in and I can see all the people that they are emailing with. And so I can have that safety discussion with Zoe. So in this case, it's harmless. It's a discussion that I could have, but it's a potential security issue. But if I wanted to go to external, so this is anything that's coming in, and these are all fictitious, but possible situations. Zoe has this job application. I'm hovering over top of it and like, this does not look like a job application at all. It's been shared by and you can see my name right there, so obviously it's me, but it could be anyone, and it's been shared by a personal Gmail, and when you open it up, it's actually someone requesting to meet up with Zoe, and it's coming from someone from Abdul. So this is a security risk. So if you have a filter, maybe your filter would catch this in the safety, security, and wellness, but as a teacher, you've caught it right away too. So, I mean, you don't always have time to sit there and view that, but I did because I've just looked over this. You're not always going to be able to see everything, but just because I was looking through things, I happened to catch it. It's right there at my fingertips. Now, this can go straight to admin, school counselor, wherever you need it to go. And that's right there so it's right at the top of Google Docs. She hasn't even opened it. It's not even a serious issue, but it could have been, and it's something that I can step in and help support.
While we're here, I was gonna mention this is great for finding lost documents. So if the kid hasn't shared something with you or they can't find it in their Google Drive, which is about 50% of the time, you can just go search for it here and find it in their Google Drive. Or if they've accidentally deleted something.
Deleted it. Right. I think there's one more question about you use the with the Canva example, do you be able to see if a kid was messaging with somebody else on Canva? Yeah, because it'd probably be within a browser still.
Yeah. As long as it's in the Chrome or Edge browser, you would be able to see it in real time.
Another question just came in. Can you block sites from certain classes but not others? Example, I teach math and I want some of my math classes to be able to use AI, but not others.
Yep.
Yep. Just go right in and you can block in whatever exact URL you wanna put in,
Yep.
and then you put in for how long? 5 minutes? Not sure why we have 2 hours, Lindsay, I missed the reason on that one. So it's for each class, and then I noticed that someone else wrote if someone wrote a bell ringer oh, here it is right here, and they finished within the 5 minutes. So if I do set something for 5 minutes for the whole class, I can individually release each student or the whole class, but I can also go in and Lindsay talked about creating groups. You can have it individualized per group or for certain students, and you can release them at any time.
Well, and again, this is one of the beautiful things about it is there are a lot of different tools that integrate with like say your student information system, right? So when you do like a first time drop of all the student information into your other teacher device management tool, not Hapara, yeah, you'll have all your students in there, but then you have to make all your classes individually. With some tools, some tools do I think integrate with Google Classroom, but again, it's sort of just like a one time name drop, right, of all these students versus Hapara is like a live Google Classroom integrated Google Docs, Google Drive integrated tool where like you get kids moving around your classroom, they leave mid-year, you get two new high schoolers or whatever. Whatever your Google classes are, which you're already going to maintain as a teacher, right? Because if that's one of your main teaching tools, you have to keep up on that.
Yeah.
Then you can just say, okay, this is my Hapara class as well, right? I think we might cut it off there unless Lindsay or Heather, is there any last minute thing to share? I know we're a little over time, but I appreciate you guys so much. And this is a great demo.
We appreciate the opportunity. It was fun, and fun to hear from educators, their
Yeah.
questions.
Awesome. Thanks everyone. And we'll share this on YouTube here pretty soon. Have a good one.